All right, so Justin, how long have you held this title?
I've held this title for the last 6 years.
Okay. And so how long have you been working at NC State Athletic Communications, and what titles have you held during that tenure?
Absolutely. I started working in athletics communications as a student. I was a junior in undergrad, so that was 2011, and I've been with the department ever since then. I was fortunate enough to be promoted to a postgraduate intern after I graduated in May of 2012. I worked a year and a half as a postgraduate intern, and then I got promoted to assistant director. So I've been very fortunate here that things have fallen into place for me to allow my continue my transition into my professional development.
Awesome. So what are your day-to-day duties of your job currently?
So as the communications director, my day-to-day duties are to find new avenues and new ways to promote the teams that I'm responsible for. So the teams that I'm responsible for include the volleyball program, the rifle program, and the baseball program. It's really fun right now because you don't have to do a whole lot to promote this baseball team that's having so much success, 20-1 on the year, #1 team in the country. So those are things that are always really exciting. And so with that challenge comes, my task of making sure that this message is getting out to everyone. So I don't want anyone saying, I didn't know we're the #1 team in the country, because it's my job and my task as essentially the chief public relations officer for the baseball team to make sure that our story is being told both in print media and television media as well, to make sure that fans are able to consume our story and know exactly about all the exciting things our baseball team is doing this year. And the same goes with volleyball and rifle in their in season as well. I make sure that they are getting the publicity they need as well.
Okay, awesome. And so you said you worked with volleyball, rifle, and baseball. What other sports have you worked with during your tenure as well?
Yeah, so during my tenure here, I've also worked with the wrestling program. I've worked with gymnastics. I've worked with the men's tennis team. I've worked with swimming and diving, softball team, volleyball, rifle, and baseball.
Awesome.
So a nice little
Just about everything almost.
Nice little mix of everything there.
So what did you study in college, and what did you do in college? You said you were a student assistant as well, to help you kind of prepare for this opportunity.
So it's funny, I actually kind of got my start in this business based off of what you're doing now, the sport manager interview. So when I was in undergrad, I interviewed Annabelle Myers, who at the time was assistant AD for communications. And she and I talked about the field, kind of what her day-to-day was, kind of the things that she really enjoyed about her job. And those are all things that I was super interested in. I was always that guy growing up that knew the random factoids and the random facts about players and teams that none of my friends knew or even cared to know. And so once I found the business that kind of matched up those two together, then I knew that this was the field for me. So in the field of communications or sports information or media relations, there are so many different titles that we have, because we wear so many different hats.
Right.
And I think that this is a perfect mix for me because I still get to know all the random factoids and push out those random facts about our teams that nobody else knows. But from there, it's the challenge of making sure that this story is being told across the board and not just something that's on our website or on our channels and no one else knows as well.
Awesome. So I guess talking with her also kind of drew you to pursuing a career in the sports industry. What else possibly did as well?
Yep.
Or was that something you always kind of wanted to do coming into college?
Yeah, it was interesting. I always wanted to be in the field of sports somehow, and I didn't really know how that fit together. When I came to college, I was undecided about what I wanted to do. I thought I wanted to maybe be a broadcaster for ESPN or be on SportsCenter anchor or something like that. And kind of doing some different things. It wasn't really my forte to be in front of camera as much, so I kind of like more of the behind the scenes role and being able to kind of publicize and tell some of the cool stories. I've always enjoyed writing as well. I have a minor in journalism from NC State here, and so that's something that has always been a big part of me. So being able to mix the helping out the side of assisting the broadcast side while also being behind the scenes and telling the stories is great. It's something that I really enjoy, and I think I will continue to enjoy it in the foreseeable future.
Nice. So was sport communication information kind of a career you always eyed, or I guess you kind of answered that too just now, but is there any other kind of stuff that you were always kind of interested to as well?
Yeah, so it's funny because one of the things that really interested me about this business is that so I've learned that when you watch any given game that's being broadcast on television, you see all these different graphics that are on the screen, and you hear the broadcasters say all these interesting factoids, and you're just like, wow, like this is a really good fact. Like he really did his homework to know all that, and then once you you learn more about the business and you get into the communications side of things, you realize that essentially what the communications director do is they provide what's essentially like a study guide for the broadcasters before they go on air. And then from that, they can then decide what they want to use on the air, and then they can prepare for that, essentially as if you're studying for a test. So a lot of times what NC State will do is, or what the communications director will do is we'll provide game notes for the media as well as the television talents, and from that they can then learn more about our team. So say you have a stat of somebody's brother plays professional football or professional baseball for another team. That's something that you can put in your game notes and then provide that on to ESPN, so that way when they get ready to broadcast your game, they're saying all these amazing facts about your program, your school, your university, your student athletes, coaches, and it's all from something that's been packaged together that you give over to ESPN. Now, I'm not saying that the ESPN, talents or Fox Sports or whoever it may be, I'm not saying they don't do their own homework,
Right.
but it's also nice to be able to have these things and then pass it along to ESPN or whichever TV station it is, in case they didn't already know that.
Because they have other teams they have to
Absolutely.
worry about. Yeah.
You got it. Yeah, they have so many teams that they're trying to prepare for. It would be really difficult for them to try and do this deep dive on everything that's out there for all of our student athletes. So instead, what we do is we compress that list and put everything into kind of one area where they can go as kind of a one-stop shop where you can get everything you know about this NC State baseball program or this NC State basketball program.
Okay, awesome. And so what would you say is a typical career path for someone in your position? Like, what's the upward goal, I guess, possibly?
Yep. So I think the typical career path for someone in the field of sports information or communications is to first you've got to get a ton of volunteer experience. So when you're a student or when you're looking to get into the business, this is not a business where you can just step into day one with no previous knowledge or experience in the business and expect to be compensated very well. That's not how it works. So you need to put in your time first. So you've got to be willing to volunteer and help out with this event and do this, even though there's no monetary value to it. There's a lot of value to it in your professional development, and there's a lot of value in it in your experience that you're gaining with that. So I think that's the first thing that you have to be willing to do is start at the bottom and then work your way up. Because once you're volunteering and helping out with all these events, you're getting the opportunity to kind of see what it's like for these individuals daily, what it takes to run a successful basketball game, football game, successful baseball game, all these different pieces. So that way when you're put in that position, you know exactly what it takes to get there.
Awesome. And so what would you say are your professional goals, your personal goals?
Yeah. So my professional goal is I want to be an athletic director. I'm all about the student athlete experience. I love interacting with student athletes. That's one of the things that I enjoy most about my career path is being able to publicize the successes of our teams when they're doing well. Like baseball team now ranked #1 in program history. And then what really gives me joy is when I put out a release or if I put out a graphic and then all of the student athletes on the team then take that graphic and then they're posting it to Instagram, they're retweeting it on Twitter, they have it on their Snapchats. That's something that really gives me a lot of joy to see how excited they are about their accomplishment. There's nothing better than getting to watch a team put in the work day after day after day, and then when it's time for all of it to pay off, it does in a big way for them. And with the whether it's the ACC Pitcher of the Year last year with Brian Brown or somebody like Joe Denan, who's drafted in the second round of the MLB draft. Just so many different things to be excited about, and that's the thing I really enjoy about collegiate athletics is that not only are these awesome athletes on the field, but there are awesome stories off the field as well. They're getting stuff done in the community. They're getting it done academically as well. So I think you see the most well-rounded athletes in collegiate athletics.
Awesome.